Welcome to our final episode of REALink, and this is where real conversations happen. REALink is a conversation series where we engage with our special guests to explore various topics that matter in our society and that also matter to them. Through conversation, we highlight the importance of staying connected with one another and with self. REALink is also a campaign to raise funds to support the work that we do in Lutheran Community Care Services, or LCCS for short. You can support us on giving.sg through the link that will be shown below or the QR code that will be flashed occasionally on the screen. My name is Justin, and I will be your host for today's session. Today, we are so privileged to have Danny Yeo with us. Danny is a well-established cross-media personality and has anchored Info Entertainment Channel U programs, written film scripts, and authored books in 2 languages. His experiences through theatre and hosting television documentaries fused his concerns about marginalisation, poverty, and social issues. Today, Danny will be sharing about his own personal journey as he unpacks for us why it is so important for one to experience emotional healing and what helped him to better connect with self. Let's welcome Danny on screen.
Hello, hi Justin, and hello everyone who's tuning in and watching this. Hi, so I'm at home right now and I'm connecting with you via internet, and it's wonderful to be on Facebook Live right now too. Most of my friends actually know me by Danny, which is what Justin is calling me. But I think in my professional work, I'm probably more known with my Chinese name, which is Yang Chunwei. I'm very glad to have met Justin through a friend who's Jake Zuo Yi, and that's how I got to know about all the works that LCCS is doing. And I'm also a very big advocate for mental health. So today, right here, I think between friends, it's also a connection that we're establishing right here.
Indeed, and I'm just wondering if it's strange for you that today you're not doing the hosting, but you're doing the sharing instead.
I'm very happy to relinquish my hosting job and leave the pressure and also the stress to someone else.
Yes, tell me about it. But we're so thankful that you accepted our invitation to conclude our REALink conversation series. This is the finale. It has been a journey of more than a month for my colleagues and I. And we thought that for people who are tuning in, maybe some of your friends who are tuning in for the first time, to just share a bit more of the context, we'll be showing a video that captures some of the significant points from the previous conversations.
Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship.
Turning towards each other and being curious about the other's experience, and knowing that we are able to connect.
Many a times, Dixon and myself, when we look at the 4 children, we thought that we are the one blessing them, and many times we know they are the one bringing us immense amount of blessings.
如果你还那么坚持、那么执着，为了这些事情而闹得面红耳赤，那也还真的是对不起大家，也对不起。
I kind of moved away from a traditional mindset to kind of run my own business now. It's fully attributed to whatever my dad has done in my young age.
What happened to these victims is that they did not have any empowerment. Someone forced sex on them. And so the helping process must reaffirm that sense of empowerment.
Something was taken out of you, and until you address that vulnerability in a single safe space, only then could the colors be brought back into the world that you live in.
As you can see from the video, REALink is all about the connections that matter, with issues that matter, and also with people who matter. And the video showed so many of our special guests speaking from their heart. And that also tells us that everyone has the capacity to connect in order to engage, collaborate, empower, and restore. So, Danny, as you were watching the highlights video, what did you personally connect with?
I think when I first come to understand what REALink was doing, I actually visited the website of LCCS, as well as getting to understand a bit more about what this whole conversation series is about. And I saw some familiar faces in that video as well. My friends from Radio De Ming, Qi Qi. I feel a lot for the various topics, especially when you're trying to reach out to victims and marginalized individuals, because very often they don't have a voice, or they don't have a channel. They don't know which avenue to go to seek for help or to allow their voices to be heard. And I think what I do in a lot of my professional work is to give a voice, is to address the vulnerability of a lot of people, a lot of situations that people are facing. And I'm just very glad to be able to share my stories. And I identify with one of the words that I saw in the video as well, and that's empowerment. By sharing stories, we're actually empowering others to be able to speak up and to be able to identify that you're not alone facing this issue. And I think that's what's most meaningful. In fact, when Justin referred me to the various topics in REALink, I was looking through a lot of them. I was thinking, like, I'm interested in this. I want to look at this. I want to listen in to what others would have to share. But when I came to emotional healing, that just struck me because it was something that I've always been very concerned about. And it was exactly something that I was going through personally as well.
Yeah, and I think that we're all excited and also very interested to hear you share. I recall that when we were connected with you, I gave you the whole long list of topics. And we really wanted you on the finale, and it happened that we wanted to end the series with something that is very personal and closer to home, and that is emotional healing. So a lot of the other topics were about issues that happens in our society, like violence, or even, things like poverty. And, we just thought that for people who are tuning in, today is really an opportunity for the listeners to really consider themselves, to consider what is happening for themselves. And so you chose emotional healing as a topic that you wanted to share about. And well, maybe let's just try and define it a little bit for the listeners today. To you, what is emotional healing all about?
I actually thought that this was a very difficult question, and I had a little discussion with Justin beforehand, and I asked him, what is emotional healing to you? But after watching the video just now, which I thought was wonderfully produced and very nicely edited together, so kudos to your team at LCCS. But I think emotional healing is all about you. And I'm pointing my finger at the camera as much as I can because I'm trying to reach out to everyone, each and everyone who's watching this. Emotional healing is not about others. It's not about having to allow others to feel good, but it's about you, yourself, and you need to concern about you. So I actually have 3 words that all starts with the letter U as well. So emotional healing, I feel, is about unseen, understanding, and unique. Unseen because sometimes you'd feel that when you're healing emotionally, you feel very alone. But it's a situation that can be compared with if you're walking down this road with someone else. So even though it's unseen and it's not easily detectable by others around you, you can choose whether you want to handle it alone or if you like to hold someone else's hand or lean on someone else's shoulder. I also think that emotional healing is about understanding because it's allowing yourself to have better awareness, knowing a little bit more about yourself and also knowing a little bit more about others, people around you. In this journey, as you're going through emotional healing, you might even get to know your friends much better than before. You might not have seen them in this light, whether positive or negative. And I think that's a way to bridge better understanding for yourself and also for others. And lastly, I think emotional healing is very unique. Not one way would be suitable for another. What I mean is that there are different ways of emotional healing. And it's not a one-size-fits-all, and it's not a quick process. But it's going to be a long journey whereby you're not just taking a bottle of medicine and hoping to heal in 5 or 7 days, but you are allowed to take time and heal in your own time.
Exactly. And in fact, today you would not be sharing with us a recipe, not something that we can copy and say, okay, so this is what Danny has done, so it would surely work for us. But I think what you're sharing with us is your own journey. And I'm glad you mentioned one of the you is unseen. Because often what is unseen is your story. I mean, we see you on TV. I see you on documentaries. I see you hosting. And some people might have even heard you when you were, back in the days when you were a radio DJ. So not many people get a chance to really picture or visualize or understand and see a little bit about what you go through as a person on your own journey. And your journey is really interesting because you're not just a media personality. You also studied a master's in counselling. So you're pretty much actually quite a subject matter expert on this. And you have hosted counseling radio programs. You did documentaries on social issues. You've traveled the world and you have seen many things. And once you have seen these things, I think you're no longer able to unsee them. So could you share with us, how did your own experiences doing all of these things shape your own understanding of emotional healing?
I get very nervous when someone starts to introduce my background and also my experiences, because then it's exposing my real age in some ways too. But
especially the radio DJ part, right?
I know, because I actually left radio more than 20 years ago. That was in year 2000. So yeah, if you calculate, start to have a better idea. But I'm just going to write on some of the things that Justin mentioned. I was a psychology student, and one of the most fascinating thing that I found out about the definition of psychology is that it's not some psychic read your mind kind of course, but psychology is just basically understanding yourself and others in terms of thoughts and behaviors as well as emotions. So when I was doing my undergraduate studies, I loved psychology so much that I pursued a master's degree in counselling. And I think that trained me to listen to people and also to structure or form my words in a certain way so that communication is actually more constructive and more positive. So it is very professional training. And because of my entire media background, I was in radio, I do television work, also write articles for newspapers and magazines. So interview technique becomes something very professional for me. But knowing people is something that's very personal and not professional for me. And that's why I always see myself as a storyteller when I'm hosting documentaries, or a story collector when I'm hearing people's stories, and I'm a story sharer where through the TV programs that I present and that I host, I would like others to have these bridges. You might be from one world, but you can also reach out and touch and get to know another world. Just very recently, a producer of mine, Janessa Wong, she sent me a really long message, and she was telling me about my hosting, because I keep telling her that I learned so much from her from a recent series that I did, which is a medical journey. And Janessa wrote and told me that she valued my sensitivity to the people that we met, my wealth of experience, which explains my current real age, and also a curiosity for knowledge and a willingness to explore something out of your comfort zone. So all these, to me, right now, actually feels very much like emotional healing as well. You need to have this curiosity to want to find out more about yourself and also your surrounding. Why is this happening? What happened? How can I understand it? How can I deal with it? You are also basing on your wealth of experience. Whatever that you have been through in the past is going to help you right now in the present and moving forward into the future. It's also a real test on your sensitivity, because your emotions are going to be affected, and then you start to feel things in a very different way. And I think just hosting a medical journey, 巡医, on Channel U, 频道. This whole series about meeting people in different countries, going through different medical situations, and facing up to their emotional turmoils. That to me was a real learning experience.
Yeah, so we have prepared a trailer of an episode of Xun Yi, which we would like to show everybody so that they can just have a better sensing of what you have just described for us. Let's watch that trailer together, shall we?
今天真是蛮冷的，我又忘了戴手套。当时我们在蒙古乌兰巴托的时候是-20度，从来没有碰过这么冷的拍摄情况。我的脸颊是硬的，根本感受不到我身体的部位。当时我就发现周围的环境跟情况深深地影响了当地的病患，同时也要承受着他们身体上的病痛。有一个快要死的爸爸，他的孩子刚开始反应很大，他说：“我知道你在做什么，你就是要让我哭，对吗？”然后他很生气。拍这个系列，我也很多次觉得很难受，因为我一直有个挣扎。我觉得面对病痛、面对死亡是很私人的一件事情。但是我觉得在面对病痛跟死亡的时候，都是很辛苦的。Yeah. 你看，我们连这2个字“死去”都很难说出口，但是作为主持人，我是这么近距离、这么真实的去面对这个死去。
And that was a trailer that I understand this episode won you an award 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, I just did. It's really... it was wonderful news, but then now that I'm watching this video as well, this actually happens to be a lot of behind the scenes, which audience don't get to watch in the episode that was broadcast on Channel U itself. So I'm recalling a lot of what happened during filming and what went on behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, because this
episode, so it's a little mixed feeling right now.
Sorry, please go ahead. Yeah. Would you like to share more with us about what your experience was like filming this episode?
So this episode just won an award 2 days ago, which I'm very happy about, because it's kind of like affirming to all the efforts that we've put in. In fact, this entire series, The Medical Journey, Xun Yi, was almost mission impossible. There were so many times when there were so many different threats that could have made it impossible to finish filming or telling story in every episode, and particularly in Mongolia because of the harsh weather conditions, and also some of our interviewees, they are actually facing death right in their faces, and so were we. So it was very difficult to get interviews. It was very difficult to gain access into the hospitals, and even today I find it a bit difficult to talk about this emotional journey, but I am hoping to do this for Justin, for Jake, who connected us, and also for Janessa, my producer, whom I think face a lot of difficulties and challenges while filming this. So personally for me, this episode was about palliative care, and we had to get in touch with a lot of patients in their old age, and they were in their last days. So I was standing or sitting right next to deathbeds, and I had to talk to family members as well. That very year, I had 4 friends who passed away because of different reasons and different medical conditions. And in fact, out of the 4, there were 3 whom I couldn't see them before the last breath because I was filming, I was away, I was in Singapore, and so I couldn't be with them. at their deathbeds, and here I am with strangers. So when I thought about that, and I was looking at someone who was dying of a liver disease, I recalled the one friend that I saw before he passed away, and it was the same skin color, it was the same situation, it was the same size that I'm hearing as well. So I couldn't control my emotions, and I started tearing, I started crying profusely. And the cameraman was trying to capture me on camera crying. But I think it was a very real barrier for me. As a professional host, I feel that when you reveal too much of your emotions on screen, some audience might take it as a performance and feel that, you know, you're just trying to earn sympathy, or you're trying to tell a story in a way that would affect audiences right in front of the television set. So you have to be really careful about how much of your real emotions to show and to reveal, and how emotional you really want to get on screen. And at that time, I decided that no, I don't want to cry in front of the camera, so I moved away. But as I turned, the camera also tried to find another angle to capture my facial expression. And it wasn't until Janessa, my producer, asked, why are you feeling this way? Why do you feel so strongly? That a light bulb just lighted up in my mind, and I realized that, oh, so this is my release as well. It was also my realization about how I connected to the people right there and there in Mongolia. It was also my release and my realization for my longing and my love for my friends who passed away that very year. And so then I felt it was also my process of healing by being able to face the camera and say it really straight, that very line that you heard. When we're facing death or pain or suffering, it doesn't matter whether you know the person or not, it feels the same way. And we all have to go through this journey one time or another. And like I've said before, you can either do it alone or you can do it with someone else. And I was very glad that I had the cameraman and producer there who were not just working partners, but friends who were experiencing it and also going through with it with me together.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Even right now, as you tell this story, you know, it still does sound like you're having a bit of difficulty relating because it's such a painful thing.
I think so.
Yeah, and the fact that you had some release on camera, that's very rare, and you know.
Yeah, it was very funny because I was trying to escape the camera, but then eventually I chose to reveal my own vulnerability as well, and I had that release, and it became such an important realization for me, not just as a person but as a television host as well, and I think that's why this episode became quite a breakthrough for me. This entire series of looking at different medical conditions and going to different medical facilities also opened up my eyes, opened up my heart, and open my mind to a lot of the situations and sufferings that we have in this world.
Yeah, in some ways, that scene that you described about, you know, trying to hide away from the camera and then eventually face up to it, you know, that also sounds somewhat like an important component on emotional healing, and how sometimes, you know, one might want to hide away from something that's painful until there is an opportunity for you to connect with what is causing that pain. Today we have a very rare and a very unique opportunity to hear more about your own journey. And as we talk about emotional healing, could you share with us, when did you become more aware of your own need for emotional healing?
I think one reason why I feel quite vulnerable sharing right here today in REALink is also that means I need to face the real situations that I've had recently and also years ago, and it means having to be honest and truthful but at the same time courageous as well. And I'm glad that in the very first video that we saw, LCCS is creating a safe space for people to be able to share and also tell the stories. I think I first became aware of my need for emotional healing maybe more than 15 years ago. This was when I had a change in my career, and I joined a new radio station. I was one of the pioneers to start a new radio station. And before that, my entire career was very smooth sailing. It was very successful in some people's eyes. But when I had a change in my job, then I realized that I was taking on a lot of new challenges and a lot of new barriers as well. And at the time, I felt that everything is working against me. Everyone was an enemy. And there was no friends around, nobody that would understand my situation. And that was also my first encounter of depression. This was in my early 30s. The funny thing is, because I was a psychology student, so I understood every symptom, every sign, and I recall every word in my textbook that I read about. And yet, now this is happening to me back then. And you are very knowledgeable, you know what can be done, but I felt trapped and I couldn't do much about it except, still facing every challenge and trying to get over every hurdle. I think some of the worst experiences I've had at that time was not being able to sleep at night. I'll wake up almost like every 15 minutes, every half an hour, and I'll be scratching at my head and trying to pull things out from my brain because it was so messy inside. I had so many thoughts. It was like a spider web, and I just wanted to make clear of everything so that they would be in order, but I couldn't. And every day I would just be dragging myself out of bed, back to work, and it was just very dark and gloomy every day. And that lasted maybe about 4 months. It was at that time that when I was attending a sermon, and I heard something that, again, just felt like a spark that went off in my mind, as if there was a lawnmower that went through my mind and cleared away a lot of the messy grass. And it allowed me to see a pathway and allow all the grass to be parted. It was almost like parting of the Red Sea, finding a way to go through this myself. And because this is with LCCS, I know that this is a safe place for me to share some biblical verses and also my understanding of the Bible. There were two parables that appealed to me at that time. One, and both of them are from the book of Matthew. So one is parable of the weeds. It talks about how good people and bad people actually, would grow up together. There are the weeds and also there are the wheats. And we shouldn't be too hurried in wanting to get rid of the weeds, lest the wheats would also be pulled up, And so the parable actually relates about how servants can separate the bad weeds from the good wheats. So how do you do that? When a wheat is actually bearing fruit, it would actually bend down with a weight on their back. And that's when they're closer to the ground and you are humbled because you are facing all these challenges. You are about to be harvested. And when you're bending down, then the bad weeds would be the hard parts that are sticking out. And these would seem very proud and conceited, And when I heard that, then I thought, wow, I'm in the same situation. I'm feeling unbearable heaviness on my back. But it's actually a process for me to learn to be not proud, but humble, and to bend myself down a little closer to the ground. So this is one parable. The other parable that connected with this was Parable of the Talents, also in the book of Matthew. And it's about the various abilities that were given, some 5, some 10, some 30. And in your own time, you are able to invest in your talents or make use of your talents so that it becomes, 3-fold, 10-fold, 100-fold, and you can multiply it. And so I realized that any challenges or any difficulties I'm facing is in my own measure as well. I will not be given anything beyond that I can handle or that I can carry. So any difficult situation is not to break me, but to make me stronger and to make me better. So that was something that really appealed to me. I held on to that. And after coming to realize that, I started to write articles and I started to share my stories with people as well. And there was a Chinese article that I wrote, which was titled 背后有光. I think I shared this with Justin before. 背后有光 means that you've got a light behind your back. So when we're in depression, when we're facing emotional turmoil, when we're having so many difficulties, we are looking at shadows and clouds right in front of you. But if you actually see black shadows and black clouds right in front of you, that means there has to be a light source, and therefore you see this overcast. All you have to do is to turn 180 degrees. So for example, my bookshelf behind is right now in a little darker, right? And if I turn 180 degrees towards the light source, then I would start to see where the light is coming from, and maybe I'm the barrier that's casting the shadow right behind. But all you have to do is to take this 180 degree turn, however difficult, however effortful, and however emotionally challenging that can be.
Yeah, you talk about 180 degrees turn, and yet at the same time, when I think of a turn or rotating on the spot, you're still at the same place, which reminds me that, you mentioned all the burdens and all the stresses and all the difficult things, they are still there. They're still there with you. It doesn't magically go away the moment that you decide to see things from a different way. But I guess like what you mentioned, it is really that turn so that you can begin to make a turn to see the light. But what do you think actually sometimes stops people from making that turn?
I think sometimes we don't know how, and we don't know that we can make a turn because we're actually stuck in the current situation. And truth be told, we sometimes enjoy being in a situation of feeling vulnerable or feeling hurt or feeling sorrowful, because that itself releases certain chemicals that I don't know, allows us to dwell in that situation. And I think that's what some people might say is self-pity. Is it fair to say that?
Possibly, like feeling sorry for yourself, or maybe even attacking yourself and saying that, why am I feeling this way? Is it because I'm a weak person? Are you referring to something like that?
Yes, and I think I felt that way as well. Like very recently, because I was involved in a big theater production, and theater arts has been facing a lot of challenges during this COVID situation, and there wasn't very much we can do. But I was very eager to want to do something about it, and yet I was taking on too many burdens again, and I didn't know how to seek help. And I think that's where I got stuck. And it's the same situation as what you're mentioning as well. Feeling stuck in a place, you actually don't know how to climb out of the hole, or you didn't know that you can actually just reach out a hand and someone might just help you by pulling you out of the situation. So I think it's a lot about self-awareness as well. And also being able to find those linkages, those connections, whereby you can actually call a friend, you can look for a family member, you can seek help, and they are all around you, really.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned early on, when we tried to define emotional healing, and you mentioned 3 U's. One of the U is understanding, and the other U is unique. And it so happens that one of our listeners tuning in today actually typed a comment. Daryl mentioned, how might we achieve emotional relief in times when we are unfamiliar with what's going on, right? I hear the part on being unfamiliar as something that is unique. So when you're facing something unique, like you just shared about the current COVID situation and your difficulties in your theatre production, and COVID is unprecedented, how do you journey towards gaining a better understanding or awareness about what is happening at that moment?
I'm not sure if I can actually give an answer to Daryl's question, but I'm just sharing from my own experience and my own reactions to the situation. At the beginning of COVID, I actually felt that this was a good time for me to rest. For the past 5 years, I've been out of Singapore maybe more than 50% or 60% of the time. And I thought, okay, this is just right. I can stay in Singapore and just rest and chill and not do anything. Maybe I'll be able to pack my house and learn some cooking skills as well. But then as time went on, I started to doubt. And I was thinking, then what is the purpose of me being here? What can I do with my abilities and my talents? And then suddenly I felt very useless. I felt like I couldn't apply my knowledge, my skills, my very presence to anything at all. And so all the industries that I'm in were affected. Television, there was no more overseas filming for me. Theatre couldn't go on. We couldn't put on productions on stage. And also events. I do a lot of events hosting. These were cancelled. Large-scale conferences and ceremonies cannot be done. So I realized that there were a lot of voices and a lot of noises all around me. I decided that I needed to keep away for a while and find a quiet place myself so that I can reflect and think about it and to organize my thoughts. So I started to do journaling. I do meditation on my balcony. I started to swim a lot, which explains my tan skin right now.
Tan now.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of diving, but when I'm in waters, when I'm swimming, I can keep myself out of the outside world for a short period of time. And I think that's when I start to find a lot of answers. It's very much like praying too, isn't it? Where you start to see certain illuminations and answers to come to you, and you start to realize some things for yourselves. For yourself. And so for me, things are unfamiliar, but I'm eager to find out more. I would read, I would talk to people, and then realize that I'm not alone in this. And so I don't feel so afraid anymore.
So you journey inwards, you make sense of what is happening with yourself. And then at a certain point of time, you emerge and connect with people around you who matter. And, I think you also mentioned about the analogy of the wheat. Just coming to an understanding of that what is happening. I remember when we had the conversation to prepare for the session, you mentioned about how what is happening is meant to make you and not to break you. And these are some interesting pointers to remember and to consider when we're going through it. But at the same time, we don't want to make light of anyone's journey, because at that point of time, it really does seem very dark. And probably like you described it as clouds and shadows everywhere. You talked about, not being able to sleep at night, and all these are all real challenges.
I think some of these realizations could be on hindsight, because you've been through it, and then so you understand it a little bit better. But I always cautious myself as well that I know that could be another trigger and it can happen again. But I'm just a little bit better equipped to handle it the next time. However, I was also sharing with Justin before we had this conversation that I'm very worried about, people telling those who need to go through emotional healing things like, you can do it, Anna. You're so good, you're so strong, and I'm here at any time. You can come and look for me. So sometimes that can sound quite damaging to the person who's suffering. Actually, it may not necessarily help. And I always make this comparison between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy, you're standing up and you're looking from a higher point. You're thinking like, oh yeah, can you can do it, man. But then empathy is just being on the same level and then sitting right next to the person and then putting an arm around and saying like, yeah, we're here together, we're in this together, and we can do this together. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to respond or explain. I'm just here for you anytime. Yeah,
I'm so glad you said that, because it's not about finding a person who would, just try and make you better, or even come up with solutions for you. And that's also not the intent of this session. And that's also something that as we spoke about it, right, Danny, we mentioned that we don't want people walking away thinking that, okay, so I just need to apply the same steps, or I use the same parables that Danny has mentioned. And that idea of like, when you showed that thing about hugging that cushion, it is an idea of journeying with, not doing things for you. And, at LCCS, we journey with people to make sense and meaning of the difficult life experiences. And one of the ways we do that is through this thing called restorative conversation. Most of the time when people face difficulties and hurts, it causes them to get disconnected from themselves. And that is perhaps a way to cope. But, when it comes to healing, right, as Danny, you have shared, it's so important to gain awareness. It's so important to reconnect and come to terms with what is happening for yourself in a way that is so meaningful to you. And in order for that to happen, we want to welcome all of you who are tuning in today, or maybe not today, you watch it, sometime after today, that you can reach out to us at LCCS. You can send people that you know also to reach out to us so that we can have these conversations with them. And this work is made available to anyone who needs it through the support of generous donations. So actually today is also one of our ways to raise funds. And as Danny has pointed out, a lot of things have been disrupted. Even our usual fundraising methods have to change, and we've got to come online. And there is also a silver lining to that, because today, because of that, we can bring Danny to you, and we all get to hear his story. So that's something that we're thankful for. And if you would like to donate, please scan the QR code on the screen, and you can donate also through giving.sg. It would lead you there. And any donation above $50 will get you a food trail coupon where you can enjoy discounts from participating eateries. So as this is our final REALink episode, the donation campaign on giving.sg will actually close on 31st October.
Yeah, I really like what Justin was mentioning about restorative conversations. I think if you are going through emotional healing, or if you need emotional healing, I think it's also for you to open up in order, for something else to be able to come in. And I think that is the 180-degree turn towards the light source. And for everyone else who are able to help, if you're able to reach out and touch, and I feel that this touching, this reaching out, it can be physical or emotional. You're actually enabling us to do our job, whether we engage ourselves in a conversation or we put in physical effort to do work. Your donations is actually a real connection that's enabling much more work to be done.
Thank you for sharing that. And also just the thought that people can connect to what we are talking about, also through giving or through donations or through connecting people to resources that can help them. I think today, as we come to the end of this session, we get that the idea of emotional healing is not take a medicine and you get well. The idea is that you embark on a journey. And even at this point, we have you at a time where you have emerged from difficulties. You have just done a really wonderful theater production. But I can also then assume that at some point of time, that and life has its ups and downs, and there would be times that would again be difficult for you, and likewise for the audience that's tuning in today. So in closing, is there something that you would like to say to the audience to encourage them as they take this journey towards emotional healing?
I really like how Justin was able to register some of the words that I've mentioned, and I'm picking on his brain as well. So I think emotional healing, if I'm a very arts person, but if you're looking at it from a science point of view, each and every one of us, our physical body is actually going through regeneration every minute. Our cells are regenerating. And so we're growing all the time. We are a different person tomorrow compared to the person that we are today. So Justin is very right, and I agree. Emotional healing is a journey. It's not a quick process. And because we've all gone through this COVID-19 situation together, we all know that we all need healing, and we are doing that exactly every day, every minute. So emotional healing or regenerating yourself or growing is not going to get any quicker, but it will get better.
Thank you for that. And that's really the best way to end. And this, like I said, is our finale session. So we are so thankful that Danny has been so open to share, your story and experiences with us. And for all those who have been tuning in, also thank you for joining us. If you followed us from the first episode to now, thank you for going on that journey with us. I just want to let you know that this session today and the previous 8 episodes will remain online on our LCCS Facebook page as well as YouTube channel. And a lot of my colleagues have put in so much time and energy investing into putting together this REALink series, and I hope that you can share this with others who can benefit from this. So with that, well, I feel a bit sad that we have to say goodbye to Danny, because he's really such an amazing person to talk to. I wish that we could have more time with you. But thank you so much, Danny, for being here with us. And also thank you, everyone, for watching today's session.
Thank you. I hope that I didn't just keep rambling on, but I think more importantly is everyone who's tuning in and who's able to spread this program to more who are in need.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to say goodbye.
Thank you.